Hello and welcome to the City of Cedar Falls Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for Wednesday, January 24th of 2024. I call this meeting to order. Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Alberhasky.
Here.
Rubovich.
Here.
Hartley.
Here.
Leeper.
Here.
Moser.
Here.
Stallman.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. At this point, I would entertain a motion for approval of minutes.
I would make a motion.
I'll second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. That will go into record. This is the time of the meeting for any public comment for anything that is not on the agenda tonight. I don't see anyone here to speak. We'll move on to, there's no old business to bring up, so new business. First agenda item for new business is a preliminary plat for Pinnacle Prairie Commercial South Phase 6. And is Tom taking this tonight?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. These are both, I'll be presenting them both in the staff report because there's very few comments that are separate. The request is for where we go? To subdivide an existing lot that was divided up about 10 years ago into 3 lots. This is very similar to Pinnacle Prairie Commercial South Phase 5, which is to the west. That's got the Unity Point Clinic and Viridian Credit Union. The petitioner is Green Hill States, Inc., an Oster Family Partnership. The owner of the LLM Investments, who's the developer, is Steve Letness. This property, as you can see, is located between Brandywine Boulevard and Viking Road. It's across the street from Menards. We had some updates to this. We'd had some contact with the developer and owner on Monday, so I want to highlight 3 post-packet updates. First of all, or maybe it's 2, we had in the staff report that there was a sidewalk that needed to be installed along Brandywine Boulevard, and that's shown in red along the north side of the lots. We had listed that it needed to be installed before any occupancy permits could be issued for lots 1, 2, or 3 of the new subdivision. We've agreed that to allow this to be done within either 5 years of the final plat or once the development takes place of lot 3, which is the one to the north. In addition, as part of the subdivision requirements, water main extensions are required, but from the current development across a lot, and in this case, the extension would be along the north side of Viking Road. It's highlighted in blue across both lots 1 and 2, to the adjoining property, which is the stormwater easement, which was part of Pinnacle Prairie 2. Regarding some of the stormwater for this, you notice that the lot says stormwater easement. That was platted with Pinnacle Prairie Commercial South Phase 2. And so this whole system goes into that outlot, and then it goes under the Viking Road, and then there's a big lot to the south. So this was all part of the sort of a regional detention area for this site. There were a couple updates to the deed of dedication that we've been working on. We did an update with it just to make it more consistent with prior deed of dedications for Pinnacle Prairie Commercial South. We have reached out to the owners and the developers, and they anticipate being able to have that by City Council, but they will need to have that completed and to us for review before that. There's that water line. When we were looking at this, that is considered public infrastructure, even though we've got streets, we've got the private access. When we looked at that, we didn't take into account that water main would either have to be installed prior to final platting, or they could bond or do some type of a surety agreement, and there reached out to us, and they're going to do that. So at this point, we feel like everything is being met or will be taken care of before this goes to the city council. And since there are very few issues, we would recommend that this would be approved, both the preliminary and final plat, subject to any comments from the Planning and Zoning Commission, and then conformance with the staff recommendations.
I just want to make one correction for the image on the screen. Lot 1 is actually on the north side, so it actually, if you look at the plat itself, where it says Lot 3 is actually Lot 1, and then where Lot 1 is Lot 2, and Lot 2 is actually Lot 3. So there's just a error on the slide here, and on the plat it's correct, and in the deed of dedication we're changing that requirement for the sidewalk, and it reflects Lot 1, the extension of the sidewalk along Lot 1. So just want to make sure we were clear on that. If you look at the deed of dedication, it should reflect Lot 1, the sidewalk along Lot 1.
Thank you. Yes, I have been flipping lot numbers all around because this is a redivision of Lot 3, and it's got 3 lots, and so there's way too many 3s. I will also mention that there was something else that maybe that's where I've covered everything. Something just popped in my mind, but it kind of went away with it. But I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Commission have any questions for staff?
I just have one, as we're adding more density to this area, so that intersection there along East Viking is getting busier and busier. Like, at what point do we do another traffic study just to make sure that we're okay there with just the stop sign?
At the Viking Road.
And the Prairie
Pinnacle
Parkway, yeah.
Prairie Parkway, that is actually
CIP.
going to be a roundabout.
Oh, great,
Sorry,
okay.
Study on that, so.
I missed that one, so thank you for the
Yeah,
clarification.
I did believe that was in the CIP
Yes.
for,
Mhm.
yeah. I
Okay.
did see it, yeah.
Question,
go ahead.
sorry. I had a question on, can you go back to that previous slide, please? For the next one showing the sidewalk, this maybe it's 2 times ago.
Oops, went back too many.
Perfect. So I'm just, to make sure I understand it, it says in the bottom, public infrastructure required to be installed prior to final plat approval, which I believe is on the agenda for tonight.
Right.
So is that including the water main?
Yes.
Or how is that, or maybe, I don't know if we're on the final plat or the beginning plat right now, but it's obviously not installed ahead of time. So are we going with the surety agreement?
Yes, that is the case in the water main extension. It's typical city policy that anytime a lot is platted, that it either has a sidewalk installed with the development or within 5 years if no development happens. And so we have the trail along Viking Road, so in this case, the only sidewalk along a public street is the one along Brandy Lane, which is Lot 1.
Okay, thank you.
So with regard to the water main, it's always a requirement, it's a requirement of the subdivision code that public infrastructure get extended to the extent of the plat. So the water line, because there's new lots there, there needs to be a water line, a public water main in that location. When it was originally platted, that was only 1 lot, and the water main is actually on the north. So the lot on the north has a public water main along that street. But once you split it, there's a requirement to extend the water main. So similar to what happened to the west there, that plat, when they replatted that to 4 lots, there was a water main installed along lot 1 to the extent of the plat, so then the next property owner can pick that up and extend it. And so you always extend the public infrastructure to the extent of the plat so that the next guy can pick it up, the next subdivider can pick it up to extend that for future development. So that's the reason that it's a requirement in the code. And it wasn't installed originally because there wasn't a need for a water main there because it was just 1 lot.
Who's responsible for extending the utilities across the easement?
I'm sorry, what?
Who's responsible for extending the utilities across the easement? Like the water main and the
The water main is
sidewalks?
public,
Are
the
the
public-
sidewalks in place?
So the water main is a public improvement, so it's required to be installed with the plat. So there's two options developers have with infrastructure, with public infrastructure. You know, when you're talking about streets, sewers, water main, those requirements happen. They either can construct them ahead of time, like with the preliminary plat, then they go ahead and construct all that infrastructure before they submit their application for a final plat, or they can bond for it and provide, in this case, it's just the water main, so they're choosing to bond for that, and that surety bond and that agreement will go to council. They have to sign an agreement that says that they'll install that water main within a year of the approval of the plat. So that it just gives assurance to the community that that infrastructure will be installed. The first development on this lot, on this plat, won't need that water main. It just happens to be, and you'll be seeing a site plan coming through on that fairly soon, but not to slow down that development. They've decided to bond for this so they can get the final plat approved. The final plat is what then allows them to sell the lot.
My question was more about the easement in the next phase, like who extends the utilities across the easement?
The private utilities or oh, you mean the stormwater
Stormwater
management?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it would have to be picked up from when
The
the next
next-
development happens, yeah.
Okay. All right. All right, thank you, commission and staff. Good questions, good information. Any more questions? Is the petitioner here tonight and like to speak to this?
I'm here on behalf of them. I can answer any questions that anybody has regarding this.
Any questions for, okay, bring it back to commission. Any discussion, motions?
I'd move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Now, this would be for preliminary plat, and then we need to vote again for the, okay. So we have a motion and a second. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Alberhaski,
Aye.
Gribovich,
Aye.
Hartley,
Aye.
Leeper,
Aye.
Moser,
Aye.
Stallnaker.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. So do we just move on and vote for the final plat right now too, since we've had all the discussion for it? Okay. I would need a motion and a second for the final plat.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Alberhaski,
Aye.
Gribovich,
Aye.
Hartley,
Aye.
Leeper,
Aye.
Moser,
Aye.
Stallnaker.
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries.
All right, both motions will carry and go on to council. We have one more agenda item for tonight for new business. It's a land use map amendment and rezoning for approximately 2.7 acre parcel, formerly known as 3225 West First Street. And who is taking this tonight?
That would be me as well.
Okay, thank you,
Yeah, I
Tom.
did a lot of research on this in the past year, and so the formerly known as, there was a building that was torn down. This is a request by Amina Beckett to rezone approximately 2.69 acres from commercial to the R1 Residence District. The property owner is Howard and Marilyn Trinnell. This property was originally platted.
You got the screens not following here. There we go.
Okay. So the property was originally platted in the 1950s as the Star View subdivision. So it was in the county at that time. And it had several small residential lots to the west, and then there were the larger lots, which includes this one, to the east. And at that point, LeClaire Street was built as part of this. The property was annexed in 1971. When property is annexed, it comes in automatically as A1, but then the council will choose to look at the land uses. There's a recommendation that it be rezoned. Most of the lots to the east were rezoned as residential. The two on each side of LeClaire and two more to the east were zoned to C1. And then there were two residential lots further to the east. The commercial buildings were built prior to 1970, so prior to the annexation. and the residence was built in 1995. And as I stated earlier, this lot had a building, sort of a commercial type building until the 1920s. And I heard that Cedar Falls Band used it for storage. I had come across that, but I can't confirm it now. Last year we had, the Trunells bought the property in 2007. Last year they had a conversation with staff regarding building a residence just one on the property. They went through the process of getting a letter of map amendment for the property, which is when this was originally mapped. They included quite a bit of property that was actually above the elevation on the first set of maps. And as you can see, there's a white outline in there, and the blue shadow part had been previously mapped in the floodplain, and they went through and provided documentation, and so that portion has been removed from the floodplain, but there still is a little bit of floodplain on the property. Ms. Beggett would like to purchase this property to subdivide it. I put 3 lots, but for a subdivision for her and immediate family. So we'll get anticipate a subdivision plat in the future. Some background on this. Last year, you on the Planning and Zoning Commission probably remember seeing this being rezoned from C1 to P2, the property on the west side of Clare, to allow for to allow a business to continue to operate, one of the ones that was on the site from before it was annexed. And as part of that, the future land use was amended to neighborhood commercial and mixed use, since the area we were anticipating, since it was in an area that could possibly have some mixed use activities. The problem with that land use is that it requires any residential to be above a commercial building. So at that point, we probably should have thought about the fact that this lot is to the east of that stream and ravine. It has really not, it has access to the street, but it's just not in a prime location to see commercial uses, and particularly any type of mixed use. So at that point, we probably maybe would have recommended no land use change for that. Again, the proposal is to rezone the 2.69 acres of land from C1 commercial to R1 residence, and a request to amend the future land use map in the comprehensive plan to low-density residential, which would be in line with the type of development proposed, as well as the properties to the north, east, and south. So it would be similar to what's already established. And then in the future, the applicant, as I said, would like to subdivide the property for construction of residences for her family. We talked a lot about the land use map amendment. Keep quick back. The proposed rezoning would not be consistent with the current land use, so that's the need for that change. The rezoning can only be approved if it's consistent with the comprehensive plan, which includes a future land use map. The neighborhood commercial mixed use designation would allow for low impact commercial uses and other services, and allows, again, residential above the commercial development. The low density emphasizes single family detached development, and with some civic uses allowed, such as schools, churches. This change to the future land use map would align the land use of the property along with what's to the north, south, and east of the site. Because of the ravine, the area has a physical barrier to the commercial properties to the west, and really there's very limited opportunity for access. So staff recommends approval of the land use map change to the low-density residential from mixed-use commercial use. And now we'll go on to discuss the zoning portion of it. The comprehensive plan, rezoning properties have to be in line with the comprehensive plan. So this is rezoning from commercial to residential. The future land use maps shows the current land use as a mixed use, allowing the change to the future land use map to low-density residential would then make the R1 zoning appropriate to this area. And again, it's appropriate because the surrounding uses are similar on three sides. The property has access to public services in this area, and it has all the utilities and public services available. And then the property has access to West First Street. This access would be adequate to accommodate low-density residential, as confirmed by the Department of Transportation. And staff recommends approval of the rezoning of RZ 2401, a request to rezone 3.69 acres on the north side of West First Street, across from Winding Ridge Way. The property, again, was formerly known as 3225 West First Street, and the zoning would be from commercial, C1 commercial to R1 residence district. And this is a request to set a public hearing.
Yep, all right, thank you. So we won't be voting on this, just setting a public hearing. So is there any questions for staff at this point? Is the petitioner here tonight and like to speak to this item?
I'm here on behalf of the petitioner, but I can answer any questions.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any questions or motion to set the public hearing for the 14th?
We had someone who did, he raised his hand.
Oh, you raised your hand. I'm sorry, sir. You can come up. You need to come to the microphone and name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Dean Williams, 731 Lakeshore Drive, and my property butts up to what they're proposing. And maybe I'm way ahead of time. I don't know. I don't know if I got to wait for the main meeting or not.
This is all public record here.
I don't know if people realize that used to be a dump site for Higbee. And before they filled it in, they filled in about probably 6 to 8 foot, I suppose. I don't know what it was. And my problem is, has anybody ever checked the soil? Because I got a creek, well, there's 2 creeks, feeder creeks come into that lake. And they're one on each side of this property. And if you don't start taking care of those, we already spent, per family, 22 families, spent $22,000 to have that lake dredged 2 years ago. And we hate to go through that again. So I don't know if I'm at the right time or.
No, you are, sir, yes. I mean, but this will be an ongoing discussion. It'll have to
Okay.
go to a public forum before we can vote on it. But yes,
But
this is appropriate to talk about it now and the next
I was
meeting
on
that we discuss
the
it.
police department in 1969, and I was by there many times, so I know what was in there. It was, they had an old building, and it was just a dump. And one day, when we finally moved there, my wife and I, they put up a sign, Phil wanted. Well, they just brought everything. There's boulders, there's everything in there. So I don't think anybody's ever checked that site. I don't know. It'd be a good idea. And the one creek, I know on my side, I have noticed some oil slicks once in a while, but they're just small. They ain't no big deal, but I notified the city, but they didn't seem to care one way or the other. So anyway, that's all I got to say. I've just got questions.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
I was going to say, I don't know if we can answer your questions tonight, but I think staff could look into it a little further for the future
Thank you.
meeting.
That's all I asked.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, back to commission for any questions or a motion to set the public hearing.
A motion to set the public hearing.
I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a motion, a second to set the public hearing for February 14th. It's a very special day. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Albert Heskey.
Aye.
Gribovich. Aye. Hartley.
Aye.
Leeper.
Aye.
Moser.
Aye.
Stolnaker.
Aye.
All right, that motion carries, and the public hearing will take place on the February 14th, which I assume that is the next council meeting, the Wednesday. So, any commission updates tonight?
You'll notice that we handed out your annual conflict of interest forms. Could you please either sign those tonight and give them back to me before you leave, or, take them home and scan them and sign them and send them back to me as soon as possible?
All right, thank you. I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you. Everyone have a good evening.